Hello and welcome to the show. So today's challenge is all about brakes. We are going to see how fast we can get a car to go and still stop within the quoted stopping distance in the British Highway Code, which is 315 feet from 70 miles an hour. Now, we are going to start off with two sort of normal road cars. I say normal road cars. Forza does have the fast versions of most things, but a smart car and a Kia Forte Coupe are sort of fairly average cars that you would see on the road. Well, not necessarily every day, but they're a common sort of sight on the road. Now, before I start, I will get the inaccuracies of this test out of the way. First of all, in the stopping distance that is given in the highway code includes a reaction time. So based on an event happening, the amount of time it takes for you to react. Well, we're not reacting to anything, we're just stopping at the line, so we kind of take out the reaction time bit. Other things is measuring is kind of difficult. We will have a car parked on the start line and we measure the distance ahead or distance behind that it is, but that's not sure the accuracy because the cars might be slightly different positioned on the start-finish line. And that sort of thing. Another one is speed. Speed is very, very hard to keep at a set speed, so we could be a mile an hour under or over the speed that we are aiming for, because trying to hold a speed on a controller is very, very difficult. Also, actual braking point on the line, because we're trying to kind of guess where the line is from various camera views. We might be a little bit short, or a little bit early, or a little bit late on the line. And also, Forza is presuming that all the cars are kind of like brand new, so new tyres, new brakes, etc. So in a real car, yeah, things would be a little bit different. Anyway, run number one, we're just going to kind of set a benchmark for these cars. I will put at the top left, you will see the run number and the speed, and because otherwise it'll get confusing. Trust me, it's really confusing keeping up. So this is the Kia at 70 miles an hour. On the brakes, Daniel is driving the Kia at this point. I am driving the smart car. So from 70 miles an hour, the Kia has managed to stop within 155 feet, which is like half of the of the quoted stopping distance. So that's fairly impressive from the Kia. So they're going to have a go with the smart car. I also experimented with a number of replay cameras because this is actually rather tricky to film for. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find quite a good one to stick with. So yeah, I experimented with that. Anyway, the smart car from 70 miles an hour, fairly silly sight. It actually kind of struggled to get to 70. But never mind, we did get it to 70. Put on the brakes, there's a little bit of a lock-up. But we managed to get it stopped, and that was in 152 feet. Surprisingly, it's better than the Kia. I wasn't expecting that. I guess the smart car is very, very light, so that kind of comes into consideration. Now, I will point out now we are running without ABS on, which means that if you don't lock the wheels up, you will be able to stop sooner. But that's, of course, providing you don't lock the wheels up. And so we moved on to some more. These are fairly everyday road cars. Now we wanted to see how fast. Initially this test was going to be finding the worst braking cars, but we ended up getting distracted. So we were just going to do it about speed. Now see how fast we can go. We're starting with road cars. Daniel is now driving the Saab 9-3 at 80 miles an hour and managed to get it stopped in 200 feet. So yeah, still well within the distance that it's supposed to be in. I then had a go. Well, I'm going to go in Audi S4. We're going to do 3 runs in each of these cars and gradually build up the speed. I was feeling confident, as Daniel had just stopped in the sort of not very little distance. So I was going to go for 95 miles an hour and see what this Audi could do. And again, we're going to go onto the brakes. And of course, it is going to be a bit further. You can see the brake lights glowing away there. But I managed to get stopped in 243 feet at 95, which is pretty good. Now, we would like to use kind of more normal road cars. These the ones that are in Forza tend to be the high-up versions of the car. So, like, this is the 9.3 Turbo, the Audi is the S4 version. But they don't have the normal versions in Forza. They only have the kind of the sporty versions. Anyway, at 105 miles an hour, Daniel's Saab couldn't quite make the distance. He's a slight bit over. Still, that's fairly impressive sort of stopping distance. And the second run for the Audi, I also went for 105 miles an hour, and I managed to make it at 299 feet. Just under. So you probably had a couple more miles an hour out of the Audi, maybe a little bit more. We'll try later. I'm still experimenting with camera angles. I'm afraid this is really hard to record for because my computer is being a right pain at the moment, but never mind. So run number 3, Daniel's going to have a go again at 105 miles an hour with the Saab, and heavy on the brakes. There's again glowing brake discs on the Saab. This time it is just within the stopping distance, 307 feet. As I said, there's a tiny amount of driver skill. A lot of it comes down to the car. There's a tiny amount of driver skill, managing to get the brakes on, managing not look up, but having enough pressure to kind of try and stop the car. I would then have a go at 110 miles an hour, which was a little bit ambitious. just a little bit at 326 feet. It was close for the Audi from 110 miles an hour, but not quite. Not quite. Yeah, as I said, there's a little bit of driver skill involved, but not a huge amount, because most of it is just down to the car. Now, we moved on from your sort of average everyday road cars to kind of sports cars, and Daniel was going to start at 110 miles an hour. Of course, you know who's going to be in the Exige, and he was trying to get it slowed down. The first attempt didn't go to plan. I'm not quite sure. I think he might have missed the line to put the brakes on, because it was 335 feet, which is more than the Audi did. Yeah, there's a little bit off that one. I think he may have braked a little bit too late. I was going to have a go in a Honda NXS-R because I kind of like this car, and the statistics on the brakes were pretty good as well for it. And from 110 miles an hour, I managed to get stopped in 308 feet. Interestingly, these sort of numbers weren't that much better than the Audi or the Saab particularly, which surprised me considering these are sports cars and the Audi is a big heavy saloon car, and both of these two are very, very lightweight. So for the second attempt, Daniel was again going for 110 miles an hour, trying to get the at least stop. That time wasn't quite such a sort of brake so late on the line, but still couldn't get it stopped. You could also tell when Daniel wasn't very happy with the run, because he'd move his car very quickly and often wasn't giving me quite enough time to write down the distances on the things. I have a big book, full of all the list from all of these blooming tests. There was lots of writing in this one. The second run for the NSX, I was just going to go over a couple of miles an hour more, 112, and see if I could get it stopped in there. I wasn't sure if this one would work. However, amazingly, it was 309 feet, which I think is one more than the previous run. Yes, it is. So 2 more miles an hour, and I got only 1 foot more. I think I must have braked a bit better on that attempt. For the third run for the Exige, Daniel was being brave and was determined to beat me, so he went for 115 miles an hour and managed to get it stopped in the shortest distance of them all at 319 feet. Still not under the required distance, but yeah, the logic no makes sense on that one. So I was still messing about the camera. So I'm going to go for an onboard view of the NSX. I was trying to beat Daniel's stopping distance from 115 miles an hour. This one didn't quite work out as well for me. 351 feet. They may have overshot quite a bit on that one. So yeah, the NSX can do about 110, but much more than that, and it wasn't going to work. So we're going to move on to some supercars now. Unsurprising, really, that Daniel is using the Pagani Zonda. Now, I can't pronounce the second part of this name. I call it a Sync, but I don't think that's what it's supposed to be called. But never mind. It's a Zonda. You all know what this one is. His first attempt was going at 115 miles an hour. Expecting this one to be fairly straightforward, just kind of give these cars a bit of a benchmark. They also look very, very slow with the supercars when they're just cruising at 115. Anyway, he managed to get this one stopped 306 feet, which is actually further than I was expecting. With these cars. I mean, these are supercars. Admittedly, they do weigh a little bit more than the likes of the Elise, but they have huge brakes, probably bigger. Well, they should be better than the Exige, sorry. And yeah, they weren't getting stopped. Too much of a difference. I was going to use the MC12 for this one because I've used Viper in lots of videos, so I was going to use something a little bit different. And we haven't used an MC12 before. The first run, I was going to go for 120 miles an hour. I locked up a little bit. As you can see by the puff of smoke coming out of the tyres, which meant that I overshot. So I did 328 feet. Still not too bad, considering we are going quite a lot faster than the 70 mile an hour kind of average thing. Anyway, I love this shot on the Maserati. It's too big to fit on the grass area that we're using to measure as the Zonda goes flying past. This time Daniel was trying from 120 miles an hour as well. And this one got stopped in 323 feet, so not quite good enough. Nearly, very nearly, but not quite. So I was going to have another go with the humongous Maserati. It's ridiculously big if you look at it compared to the Zonda when it's parked. Admittedly, Daniel's parked a bit onto the tarmac, which wasn't the best parking in the world, but never mind. So I was going for a second run at 120 miles an hour. This time didn't lock the brakes up, thank God. Managed to get it better on the line as well to do 303 feet stopping distance. That's pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that one. In fact, I was so pleased I went to do some celebratory donuts. However, the Maserati is rather long and has actually quite a lot of grip, and I was having troubles to get the damn thing to actually donut on the track. I'm not sure why it was so difficult. I mean, it's partly to do with the size of the blooming thing, because it is the length of an aircraft carrier. It's ridiculously big, and also it does have a lot of grip. We might have to do more videos with this car. It's a really good car. We just haven't really done anything with it. So yeah, maybe more Maserati stuff to come, because I quite like that car. Anyway, for the final run for the Zonda, Daniel, ever determined to beat me, was going for 121 miles an hour and was on the grass as well. I'm doing some onboard cameras just to kind of give you an idea of how quickly these cars decelerate, because it is very, very quickly that they do come to a stop. However, This run wasn't quite good enough at 338 feet, and you can tell Daniel wasn't particularly happy with that run either. Still, it's still fairly impressive stopping distances from these sorts of speeds. We're going to have another look from the Maserati on board. I was determined to go one better and to do 122 miles an hour this time, but it didn't quite work out for me either. It was a little bit too far, 322 feet. I was actually surprised that the Maserati was the better of the two for this. I was expecting the Zonda to win this one, but amazingly, the Maserati has managed to do 120 miles an hour and still fit in the distance. Now, the final round, of course, is going to be the proper race cars. These are unmodified, but, well, unmodified from the standard race car-ness of them. Unsurprising that Daniel has gone for the Mazda 787B. Sounds like a blooming Formula 1 car. Fantastic engine in this one. We're going to start off at the speed of 140 miles an hour, so twice the 70 mile an hour speed, and he's managed to get it stopped within the distance, 303 feet. That's pretty good. It's pretty impressive to get it stopped, although I was expecting these cars to be able to go faster. But yeah, they weren't. I'm driving the Acura ARX02A because that's not hard to pronounce at all. Primarily because this car had the highest braking statistics of any of the cars in the Forza garage. And from 140 miles an hour, it's just beat the Mazda at 295 feet. Interestingly, the Mazda is slightly lighter, so we were expecting these two to kind of even out. Because as well as having good brakes, it needs to be fairly light, so it's easy to stop as well. So Daniel then went for 145 miles an hour and just about got it stopped within the within the distance. And yeah, it was very close on a lot of these. And as I said, there is possibility that a few of them are going to be a little bit off because we braked a little bit early or missed it or slightly wrong speed. It's very, very hard to measure. On my second run with the Acura, it all went a little bit wrong. I ended up locking up the brakes a little bit, so I overshot, and it was nearly 350 feet. Not the best of runs. Move on to the final run now for the Mazda. Daniel's going for 148 miles an hour. A little bit of lag, don't mind that, and then slam on the brakes, try and get the thing stopped. And it was a fairly impressive run. I managed to stop it exactly on the 315 feet mark. That's very impressive. Well done for getting it stopped absolutely perfectly with the Mazda. And then it was my turn to try and beat that. Of course, I was determined not to lose out, so I too went for 148 miles an hour despite my terrible attempt at the 145. You can just about see the speedo on this car. I was driving bonnet view, so I couldn't actually see the speedo particularly well. And I managed to get it stopped in 310 feet, which was very impressive for the Acura. So yeah, there we go. We actually tried doing a little bit fast. We tried 150, but neither of us could get anywhere near stopping it in a sensible distance. Don't know why it suddenly jumped up stopping distances. But anyway, here's the table of all the speeds that the cars managed to achieve while still remaining in the stopping distance. The exceeds you will notice is in red because none of the attempts actually ended up below 315 feet. The 115 mile an hour attempt was very, very close, but yeah, none of its distances, sorry, or within the challenge distance, I guess you could call it. So yes, there we go. It's surprising actually that there isn't a huge amount of difference between the Audi and the kind of prototype race cars. There's only kind of 30 miles an hour difference between them in the sort of speeds they can attain. Oh, God dear, my English has just gone kaput. So yeah, I was surprised that there wasn't a bigger differential in speeds that the cars were doing to stop within that distance. Because I mean, you've got a big four-door saloon cars in the Audi and the Saab, and you've got ultra lightweight prototype race cars, and there wasn't a huge amount of difference. But then again, it's a lot of energy that is being used to slow the cars down from those high speeds. So I'm not going to go into the physics of it because I'll probably be wrong and people will shout at me and there'll be anger, so I won't bother. But there we go. If you're interested, that is the results. I thought it was quite interesting. It's quite fun to do, but as I said, there are going to be some slight discrepancies because it's very hard to measure all of this stuff in Forza. However, that is it for this video, guys, so thank you very much for watching. As ever, if you have challenges you would like to see us do, then please leave them in the comment section. We will have a look through and we will pick our favourites. However, until next time, goodbye.